close your eyes and imagine you are standing at the edge of a continent no human has ever crossed. Behind you lies everything your people have ever known. The river that fed you, the cave that sheltered you, the bones of your ancestors buried in soil you can name. Ahead of you stretches an ocean of grass, then mountains, then horizons swallowed by mist. You have no map, no compass, no written word to record where you have been or where you are going. And yet, somehow, you will walk. Your children will walk, and over thousands of years, your descendants will spread across every habitable corner of this planet, from the frozen edge of Siberia to the burning heart of Australia. The question is not whether they got lost. The question is, how, in the name of everything sacred, did they ever find their way? We tend to think of navigation as a modern luxury, a glowing blue dot on a glass screen that knows exactly where we are. Most of us today could not walk 5 miles into unfamiliar wilderness and reliably find our way home. We have outsourced our sense of direction to satellites orbiting 200 miles above our heads. But your ancestors carried no such crutch. They held the entire world inside their skulls, an invisible architecture of stars and stones and stories. And here is what should stop you cold. This was not a primitive skill. It was perhaps the most sophisticated cognitive achievement in the history of our species. To understand how ancient humans found their way is to understand how the human mind learned to hold the world itself. So let us look at the evidence, because it is far stranger and more beautiful than you might expect. Start with the sky. For tens of thousands of years, the stars were not decoration. They were a living chart, and your ancestors read them fluently. We know this because the knowledge survives today in cultures that preserved it. The Polynesian navigators, studied extensively by researchers like the anthropologist Ben Finney, who in 1976 helped sail the traditional voyaging canoe Hokulea from Hawaii to Tahiti using no instruments whatsoever, demonstrated that humans can cross thousands of miles of open ocean by reading the stars, the swell of the waves, the flight paths of birds, and the color of the sky. The master navigator Mau Pialu from the tiny island of Satawal guided that voyage from memory alone, holding a mental star compass with dozens of points where specific stars rose and set. This was not magic. This was the same brain you carry now, trained relentlessly from childhood. But navigation on land was even older and arguably even harder. Consider the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, whose ancestors arrived on that continent at least 65,000 years ago, according to the dating of the Majedba Bay rock shelter site published in the journal Nature in 2017 by archaeologist Chris Clarkson and his colleagues. To get there, those people crossed open water, deliberately, in some of the earliest known sea voyages in human history. And once on land, they developed what we now call songlines, or dreaming tracks. These were sung pathways that wound across the entire continent, encoding the location of waterholes, mountains, rivers, and sacred sites into melody and verse. A person could navigate hundreds of miles through featureless desert by singing the landscape into existence, each note tied to a feature on the ground. The land itself was a song, and to know the song was to never be lost. Then there is the matter of your own brain. In the 1970s, the neuroscientist John O'Keefe discovered cells in the hippocampus of rats that fired only when the animal was in a specific location. He called them place cells. Decades later, in 2005, the researchers Maybrit Moser and Edvard Moser discovered another type of neuron nearby, which they named grid cells. These cells fire in a stunning hexagonal pattern, creating an internal coordinate system, a biological grid laid over the world. For this discovery, O'Keefe and the Mosers shared the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2014. What this means is profound. You were born with a map-making machine inside your head. Your ancestors did not invent navigation. They inherited it, deep in the oldest folds of the brain, and then they trained it to a degree we can scarcely imagine. Now close your eyes again, and let me take you there. The wind comes first. It scrapes across the open steppe of what will one day be called Central Asia, carrying the smell of frost and distant rain. You are perhaps 30 years old, which makes you an elder, and your skin is cracked from a lifetime of cold. The grass hisses around your knees, silver under a moon 3 nights from full. Behind you, your small band huddles near a fire that snaps and gutters in the wind, throwing long shadows that dance like spirits across the faces of your children. You cannot stay here. The herds have moved, and where the herds go, you must follow, or you will not see another spring. You step away from the fire's warmth into the deep blue dark, and you tilt your head back. There they are, the stars your grandmother taught you, the ones she called by names older than memory. You find the bright one that does not wander, the fixed point around which all the others wheel through the night. You know that if you keep it over your right shoulder, you are walking toward the place where the great river bends, where you camped 2 summers ago, where the reindeer cross in the thin part of the year. You feel the slope of the land beneath your feet, the way the wind always comes harder from one direction here. You remember the shape of that far ridge, the one that looks like a sleeping animal. You read the moss on the stones, the angle of the stunted trees bent by decades of prevailing wind. You are not guessing. You are reading. The entire visible world is a text written in light and stone and wind, and you have spent your whole life learning its grammar. Every ridge has a story. Every star has a name and a season. The dry riverbed you crossed 3 days ago connects, in your mind, to a network of valleys and watering holes that stretches further than any single human could walk in a lifetime. Knowledge handed down through countless generations of voices around countless fires. When you finally turn back toward the warmth, your youngest child is watching you, and you know that one day you will teach her this same sky. You will give her the world, the only way it has ever been given, from memory, by voice, under the stars. And here is the twist, the part that should change how you see yourself forever. That ancient skill did not simply vanish when we invented maps. It built us. The very act of navigating vast landscapes may have been one of the engines that shaped the modern human mind. To find your way across a continent, you must hold an enormous mental model of space and time. You must remember not just where things are, but where they will be in different seasons, how they connect, what stories link this valley to that mountain. Some researchers, including the anthropologist Polly Wiesner, who has studied the social and cognitive role of storytelling among the Juhehoansi people of the Kalahari, have shown that storytelling around the fire was overwhelmingly about distant people, places, and relationships, the very mental machinery of imagining worlds you cannot currently see. Navigation and narrative may be branches of the same cognitive tree. To find your way home, you had to be able to picture home when you could not see it, and to picture what is not there is the root of imagination itself. Think about what that means. The same neural architecture that let your ancestors find water in a trackless desert is the architecture that lets you remember your childhood home, plan your future, imagine a story, or feel homesick for a place 1,000 miles away. When the grid cells in your brain fire as you walk through your own neighborhood, they are firing with the same ancient rhythm that guided a hunter across the Ice Age steppe. You did not lose this gift. You are using it right now, even as you sit still, even as you let a satellite do the walking for you. Every time you imagine somewhere you are not, you are navigating. And consider the price we may have paid. Studies on modern reliance on satellite navigation, such as research by neuroscientist Veronique Bobot at McGill University, suggest that habitual GPS users show reduced activity and reliance on the hippocampus, the very brain region built for spatial memory. We may be slowly surrendering a part of ourselves that took millions of years to forge, the map that once lived inside every human skull, the song that named every water hole, the star compass held in a navigator's memory. These are flickering out, one quiet generation at a time. We gain the blue dot, but we may be losing the ancient art of holding the entire world in our minds. So return now, one last time, to that edge of the continent, to the figure standing before an ocean of grass with no map and no compass, only the weight of the sky and the memory of every voice that came before. They did not have less than us. In a way that we are only beginning to understand, they had more. They carried the world inside them. They walked into the unknown not because they were fearless, but because they could imagine the other side of it, because their minds held a map made not of paper but of stars and stories, water and wind, song and bone. And because they walked, you exist. Every continent your species touched, every horizon it crossed, was found this way by people who looked up at the same stars you can still see tonight, and somehow, impossibly, knew the way home. The blue dot on your screen is only the faintest echo of that ancient and astonishing gift. It was always, and still is, inside your head, waiting in the dark for you to look up and remember how to read.